All right. Should we should we unleash George Castro?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Who doesn't know George Castro? Does he need an introduction?
Yes.
You don't know who. George.
I'm famous for other things on the internet, such as the Ubuntu Cloud and Server update for 2013. See, I've done this talk.
George is a regular fixture at UbuCon, and he taught us all how to use our keyboards properly with Unity before. He's taught us so much. This time he's got an update on everything they're doing with Cloud and Server, including, I think, a question from earlier today, which was, how's it doing in terms of market share? All that and more will be covered. Thank you, George.
I'm really prepared hard this time. Not that I didn't the first few times. So, hey guys, I'm George Castro. I've been working on Ubuntu since it was called Project No Name Yet. Who knows what that was? You guys remember before it was called Ubuntu? That's right. It was called NoNameYet.com, and the way you could use Ubuntu was cool. You just took your Debian sources list and you put that in there, and then you rebooted it, and there was naked people in brown and stuff. So that's how Ubuntu started. So I've been using Ubuntu since the Warty Warthog. I've been working at Canonical for about 7.5 years. Worked on the community team for Jonah Bacon for a while, and for the past 2 years or so, I've been working at the part of Ubuntu called Cloud DevOps CDO. Those of you guys that know Robbie Williamson, he's come to a few SCaLEs, and he's the VP. So the way we're organized, we call it, it's a true DevOps kind of organization where our system administrators, our developers, and everybody is in the same working unit, and we have rotations and stuff like that. And we do fancy things like dog food our own product, which is really awesome. So what I wanted to do here, because Ubuntu Cloud and Server encompasses so many things, and I like to say it's so awesome that it's hard to follow all the moving pieces, right? And we're everywhere, so that's really good. So due to the nature of the cloud being commercial, there is some commercial stuff in here, but it wouldn't flip out, okay? So I've inserted community things as well. But, the virtue of being something that runs in the cloud is there are some commercial elements. So I'll talk about landscape a little bit and those sorts of things. So what's really great is I hate going to talks where you have a really loud, obnoxious guy talking to you the whole time. So if you have questions, feel free to interrupt, and Dustin's coming in. And he's just going to set this up, and then you guys can see blinking lights and things like that. I really want to make this interactive. So let's start with a show of hands here. How many of you are using Ubuntu Server or Cloud at work or in production and stuff? Okay. All right, keep your hands up. All right, if you work at Canonical, put your hands down. I don't care. Okay. Where are you guys working at? Can you kind of say, or are you allowed to? Rapid 7? What do you guys do? That sounds cool. Awesome. How about you? Golf company? Yeah? That's awesome. That's awesome. Who else? Who else raised their hands up? Yell it out. Yeah? Man, the stuff people use Ubuntu Server for. What else? Uh-huh. Awesome. Anybody else? Go ahead. Unfold. What is that? Oh, no way. That's it. So you're doing big data stuff? Aggregating voting patterns and stuff? Or? Oh, that's all right. We're hanging out later. We're having beers. All right. That works great. All right. So I'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, feel free to interrupt us here. And you guys will see Dustin doing this. Now, we do have some live demos tomorrow of this. This is what we call, this is your data center. Let's pretend this is your data center. So this is a real portable cloud that he designed to bring to events like this to basically show you, we'd show people stuff. They're like, I don't believe that works. It's too awesome. And they're like, okay, fine. We'll do it on real hardware. And they still don't believe it. So the purpose of this box is to represent your data center at work. So tomorrow we have 2 talks. Dustin's his first slot in the morning, right? Yep. And he'll be doing a live transcoding demo on the cloud, doing really awesome stuff. I don't want to give it away. It'll be awesome. And then right after lunch, Marco and I will actually be doing big data workloads like Hadoop and stuff, and we'll do it all live here. We'll do it in the public cloud as well to show you how awesome all our tools are, and you'll love it, and it'll be great. Or you'll hate it, and that's fine too. All right. So before I start, things I did not expect to start my SCaLE talk with is I saw this little announcement. Microsoft launched Hadoop as a service on Azure today, right? And you read that, and you're like, wow, that's a lot of buzzword stuff, and And okay, but a lot of people have Hadoop as a service. Why is that significant? What? So the thing runs on Ubuntu. Microsoft system administrators are deploying Ubuntu in their own data centers. What? Okay? Things are weird, right? Because like your whole world turns upside down. That's what the cloud did to me, right? I was a traditional system Linux sysadmin 1990s guy. I was that guy, right? And the cloud kind of changes everything. What do you mean they're not pets? So like but this crap like this is still happening. Like, how is this happening? So I was really surprised to see that. And this is something this is like a favorite thing that I love to read on Reddit and things like that, where people say, but nobody uses Ubuntu on servers or whatever. Real men use distros that have Python from 15 years ago and deal with it. Yeah. So you know what? Maybe I'm not going to convince you whether you should use Ubuntu or not, but these guys do. Yeah? You know how much traffic is going through this service? Especially at prime time in the United States? Pretty good. Netflix, I can say the same thing about Spotify, Dropbox, a whole bunch of stuff. But if it's good enough for these guys, then I think they're really smart people, and they know SCaLE, right? And when I mean SCaLE, I meant not the event that you are at. I'm talking about I go to a website and I do things. So I think that's really awesome, right? And it kind of spins the whole thing upside down on itself, right? Where we were talking this morning about enterprise numbers, right? And everyone's like, well, Ubuntu's when are we finally going to get into the enterprise and things like that, right? What we did is we basically said, we don't really do that, right? That's kind of a solved problem, right? Red Hat came along. Wait, is this recorded? So Red Hat came along, did us all a favor, killed Solaris. It was awesome, right? But enterprise Linux is kind of a solved problem. Then the cloud came along, right? And people didn't really know what to do, and it like kind of changed IT a little bit. So we decided, you know what? Enterprise Linux, solved problem. We're all in on the cloud. And I remember I wasn't working for the company at the time. I was like, I don't know what Mark's doing with this fad thing called Amazon Web Services, but I think that's a really horrible decision. Ends up now looking back at it, you're like, derp. So that's really cool. So what we did is we decided we're going to go to the cloud. And if you believe in the cloud, if you believe and you look at the efficiencies of SCaLE, elasticity, all the stuff you get for cloud, enterprises will come to the cloud. And that's exactly what we're seeing, right? So this morning, Jonah was like, I think Ubuntu is going to have a hard time getting into telcos. No, because telcos want OpenStack. And what's the best way to run OpenStack? We're pretty good at it. In fact, tomorrow, I don't know, at the booth, I'll deploy it for you in 7 minutes? 7.5 minutes? Something like that. It's getting faster. So here's what we offer, the entire suite of Ubuntu server things. Here's Ubuntu Server OS. That's like, so me, I have one at home. I got my little awesome little NAS box that I built and put it together myself, and it does all my awesome things. We have core orchestration with a suite of tools called Juju, Mass, and Landscape. I'm going to talk about those individually and what they fit and what they do. Dustin here is actually the product manager for Maz and we'll get to Snappy in a little bit, and he'll kind of give you a little spiel on how that works. OpenStack, how many of you are not familiar with OpenStack? Oh, only one person. Excellent. So run your own cloud internal on your own hardware. It's pretty good stuff. And on top of that, Canonical itself, we do professional services and world-class enterprise support, which means like you pay money, and then when your stuff breaks, you call Jill, and then she fixes it for you, and she's really good at that. So let's start with Ubuntu Server, because this is like the one that started it off. Over 75% of AWS guest images are running Ubuntu. That is a sick number when you think about it. Over 50% of Azure Linux guests are running Ubuntu, right? So look at this number, 70% of AWS. AWS is huge. Azure, a relatively new cloud, it's already climbing over 50%. We recently announced this cycle support for Google Compute Engine. Thank you. So you can get officially published images in Google's cloud as well, and it's pretty awesome. So we're on Azure, we're on Joyent, Amazon, HP Cloud, and of course we support bare metal, and of course we support OpenStack, where over 50% of the production OpenStack deployments being done, as surveyed by the OpenStack Foundation, are running OpenStack on production in Ubuntu. What kind of companies are we talking about? Bloomberg, right? Financial companies, right? So we're kind of past the, well, George has an Ubuntu server in his closet, right? And there's a lot of innovation happening on top of Ubuntu, so it's really great, right? All these cool little ARM boards that you have, right? You can run Ubuntu on in most of those things, and the server image is, you know, just as good as the traditional ones. We run on Power 8. How many of you are familiar with IBM Power systems? Very, very fast. Okay, you guys don't raise your hands anymore. So very fast. Ubuntu is a first-class citizen on there. Power 8 can run Little Indian mode, so it's just a really, really fast box as far as, you know, really cool technology. You should check it out. You should definitely also check out openpower.org if you're interested in those kind of platformy things. And of course, Ubuntu and Canonical have backed LXC for a really long time, which we now call Lexi. Get it? Sounds cool. And then Dustin will give you the TLDR and LexD here afterwards. And Docker itself, it's really awesome to see, like, most of the images on the Docker registry are, you know, built on Ubuntu. There's a Docker file, and you open it up, it will from Ubuntu 9 times out of 10, which is really awesome. And this really enables to take the work that they do, right, and then ship that on top of something cool like Snappy, and you add the two great things together, and you've got a really, really compelling platform. So it's really, really awesome that people take Ubuntu server and they do crazy stuff, right? Like the drone that runs Ubuntu. Who knew? So my own OS will kill me someday. So Ubuntu is used by a lot of services, like Dropbox runs in Ubuntu. Who didn't know that? Yeah? All right, cool. Spotify, I believe, is 50-50 Debian Ubuntu. I don't know. I was kind of hoping one of them would be here, but not. And there's a whole bunch of other services and things that we work on. And Weta, you actually went to Weta. You want to talk about it real quick? Yeah. So who's Weta? Why is this cool?
So Weta is based in New Zealand. So I think one of these.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, Weta Digital is based in Wellington, New Zealand. I went to Linux Conf AU down there a couple of years ago. Attended a talk by a gentleman who talked about how they scaled out their video transcoding to 40,000 cores in their data center, and they've rendered all of the Lord of the Rings movies, all of the Hobbit movies, King Kong, just an incredible set of movies. And every single one of those was rendered on a giant cluster they built on Ubuntu. It was the most beautiful data center you can possibly imagine. It was designed by Peter Jackson's personal architect, who did his house and all the sets for Lord of the Rings, designed their data center. And I think having spent a lot of time in data centers, the most remarkable thing about it is that the crawl space underneath the servers, you know, where all the wires and stuff is, it's 6 foot tall. Isn't that awesome? You can walk all the way through the crawl space. It's not a crawl space, it's a walk space. And so we remarked how cool that was, and they said, yeah, well, you know why it's done that way? I said, I don't know, so I can stand up upright? And they said, yeah, that's part of it. You see, all these servers are water-cooled. And in case something springs a leak, there needs to be a place for all that water to go. And that's Weta Digital.
That's interesting. Who didn't know that? Yeah. I didn't either. I've been working for whatever. So one of the reasons people choose Ubuntu server is obviously, other than the very first LTS, we always ship on time. You can set your clock to it, like every 6 months. We have the interim releases in between, but over 95% of the users that we've talked to stick to the LTSs, right? Especially for clouds and server stuff. So here's how the support cycle works. You get every 6 months, and of course, we always support upgrading from LTS to LTS. So generally speaking, for server people, we say stick to the LTS. And even today, for a lot of people, a 2-year schedule is still depending on who you are, that's still really short for some people. So you get 5 full years of support, which is really awesome. So any questions about that? I think everyone kind of knows that already. Awesome. Ubuntu Core Snappy, transactional updates. Dustin, explain this to me.
All right. So who understands how their phone works when it updates, right? It's a little bit different than your computer. Of course, you've done an apt-get update, apt-get upgrade on your Ubuntu system, right? And then that starts this process where it goes out to the internet and it downloads a bunch of lists of of packages, and then it compares that against all the packages, the thousands of packages you have installed on your local system, and then it goes through a really complicated dependency resolution algorithm that makes sure that everything is compatible with everything, and then it says, are you sure you want to do this? And you say yes, and then one by one, each one of those packages get downloaded, and then after they're all downloaded, they're unzipped, and then after they're unzipped, the files are copied into place, and after the files are copied in place, a bunch of post-installation scripts run, okay? And all that takes place inside of an update, which might take a minute, might take 2 minutes, might take hours in some cases. And guess what? Sometimes some things go wrong somewhere in the process, and the state that you're in the middle of that, I failed to download this file was corrupted, this post-inst script didn't work, is a real mess, right? We figured that out, as did many people, as we were building a phone operating system. Have you talked about the phone yet today?
Yep, that's all they've been talking about. This is our only chance to talk about
server, okay, so I won't go into the phone, except to say that when we built a phone operating system, we realized that, we needed to do something better than the traditional Debian apt-get update mechanism. And what came out of that is the operating system that we built for Ubuntu Mobile, and we've since transformed that into something that works on servers. Because guess what? Server administrators, they don't like it when upgrades break their systems either, right? Seems obvious. So the way Snappy works is your root file system is, your root disk is split into two file systems that are exactly the same size. And there's an A partition and a B partition. And at any given time, one of those two is your root partition, your root file system. And your server goes about doing all the things that you would normally do with the server booted from a root file system, with a few slight differences. For one thing, that root file system is read-only. Let that sink in for a minute. You can't just update and change files in Etsy like you might would have. You can't just move files around as you normally would. Why? That's all in the interest of security. Applications themselves install in a different packaging format called snaps, and it's very similar. It's an evolution beyond what we did on the phone, which were click packages. We have snap packages now, and the phone is actually going to adopt the snap packaging after we've released Snappy for servers. So that read-only root file system is your base operating system for the lifetime of that server, that boot of that server. In the background, at any point, Snappy is checking to see if there are updates available. And when there is an update available, the entire image is pulled down. Not a whole bunch of individual packages, but one entire image. That happens in the background rather than the foreground, right? So instead of apt-get update and then apt-get upgrade, that's happening in the background, and it's being written to the other partition. I said there were two partitions, A and B. You're running on A, and then in the background, once it's downloaded, it gets written to that B partition. And it's ready to go. As soon as the system reboots, it'll check to see which of the two partitions is newer, in which case it'll boot into that new one, and boom, your entire operating system is updated in one transaction. And if you need to roll back, all you have to do is reboot into the previous partition. If the first one's good, then you keep running on that, and then your next update will come to that first partition. All application data is siphoned off to a separate set of space. These two partitions are the base operating system partition. All application data is off in a slightly different place. It's the exact same way your Ubuntu phone, your Android phone, your Apple phone works. There's a service partition, an operating system partition, and then application data is stored somewhere else.
So there's a bug, let's say, and I get security updates on my servers all the time. Are you telling me that? So now I'm just rebooting servers? This flies in the face of conventional Unix wisdom, it seems. So who's this for?
Great question. So there's really two different ways of running Snappy. One is in virtual machines and images in the cloud. So we've published Snappy images already. You can run Snappy today in Amazon, Azure, and Google Compute. So all three of the biggest public clouds in the world, you can run a Snappy image immediately and try it out and see what it's like. And you'll feel a little bit disoriented at first, not being able to do some of the things that you would normally do. But that is exactly what, a couple of slides back here, we saw, that's exactly the architecture that many of these companies have designed their systems in the cloud. It's called a service-oriented architecture, SOA. In a service-oriented architecture, there are thousands of microservers, tiny little instances doing little pieces of a job. In tomorrow's talk, I'm going to run some transcoding jobs on this, where each one of the nodes is transcoding one small piece of a movie, and then we put it all back together again. You can imagine a place like Netflix, or actually I had dinner the other night with a friend of mine who works at Lyft. Lyft is 100% based on Ubuntu in Amazon, and they are a 100% service-oriented architecture shop. They run thousands of little services and lots of little Ubuntu instances, any one of which can go away, and they've got 5 others ready to handle those services and those requests. They're very interested in what we're doing around Snappy, in that it is the bare minimum expression. It's the smallest Ubuntu that we can still call Ubuntu, and they can build on top of that their applications inside of containers. So in the cloud is one way of consuming Snappy. The other way of consuming Snappy is on devices, which is really interesting. Devices it's so cool, because now we've kind of come all the way full circle from Ubuntu on desktops and laptops was when I first got into Ubuntu in 2005, 2006. Laptops and desktops, and then it was on, for me, physical servers, and then it was in the cloud, and now it's on mobile phones and tablets and mobile devices. But devices, and by devices I mean not mobile devices, tablets and phones. I'm talking about sensors, wearables, your Fitbits and your NetAtmo and sensors and stuff like that. What's cool about that is that they're somewhere between a consumer device, something that someone buys, a physical thing, not an instance in the cloud. There's lots of them, so they're kind of like cloud in that sense. There's lots and lots of these devices, but they don't have traditional user interfaces. They don't have a keyboard, and they don't have a mouse. They have a button on top, one button that you can press it once, or you can long press it, and that is it from a user interface perspective. Now, what there is there's a back-end service to this thing. You can point a web browser to it. It's your NAS or your VoIP system at home, and there you can configure things. From that perspective, it's like a little server. And so what we're doing with Snappy is we're bringing the goodness of Ubuntu to this world of devices, Internet of Things, right? You've heard that term thrown around. What's the Internet of Things? Go look at your router and start counting IP addresses on your router. For all the things you've bought in the last year or two that's now drawing an IP address on your network, that's the Internet of Things. And that's where we're bringing Ubuntu Snappy.
Okay, cool. Any questions about Ubuntu Snappy before we move on? Anyone try it yet? Oh, yeah.
Very much so. Who else is in this space? CoreOS, Project Atomic from Red Hat, and then Android and others. Rolling update, that's exactly right. So what we'll publish several channels. It's kind of like tuning your TV to a channel, right? Who tunes their TV anymore? I don't know. You point your TV at a certain channel, right? You'd point Snappy at a channel, and we'll have, we're working on the naming, alpha, beta, maybe stable, devel, testing. You'll point it at a given channel, and that channel will determine how frequently that thing gets updated. You may have some devices or some cloud instances you want on the devel channel, some you want on the testing channel, and some you want on the stable channel. But that's exactly right. I don't think we've committed to what the timeline's going to look like, but as product manager for Snappy, I'm advocating for, or not advocating for, we've proposed possibly even getting rid of the 15.04 or the 15.10. It's just you're on stable Ubuntu, and you stay on stable Ubuntu, and you just move with stable Ubuntu if you choose to be on that stable Ubuntu. And we may get rid of version numbers at some point in the future with Snappy.
You heard it here first.
Maybe. I don't know. No commitments. Yeah. That's a fantastic question. Have you worked with embedded Linux recently? No, so embedded Linux is great. I've got plenty of devices. I ran Nmap recently. First of all, I went to my router. I counted the number of things drawing IP addresses on my network. It was 38. I ran Nmap on all 38 of those things, and 35 out of 38 reported themselves as running a Linux, some form of Linux. 3 Nmap couldn't figure it out. Okay. Nmap can also fingerprint the kernel. You know how many 2.4 and 2.6 kernels were on those devices? A lot. You know how many unpatched bugs there are in 2.4 and 2.6 kernels? A lot. Are those embedded firmwares ever going to get updated by those manufacturers again? No. They're not. So what we're, when I'm talking to Canonical's customers and partners, and we're talking about Snappy, and we're promoting the goodness of Snappy, what we're saying is let us take care of the kernel and the base operating system. You build whatever you want on top of it, but we know how to build a really good, solid kernel. We know how to make that Ubuntu available and stable for millions, literally millions of laptops and desktops and servers and physical machines, and literally tens of millions or hundreds of millions of cloud instances. Let us take care of the low-level stuff. You build what you build on top of it, and we'll get you on the latest and greatest Ubuntu in a regular cadence, reliably. That would be my answer. I mean, there's some fantastic embedded Linuxes out there, but most of the embedded Linux that I have in my house or you have in the plane, who's sat in the plane and watched it reboot a bunch of times because they couldn't get the entertainment system? Yeah. It just goes through in a loop. How old is that Linux? It's like RHEL 3 or something.
First thing is module taints kernel.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. So we think we can bring a much more modern expression of Linux to the embedded world. Now, you will see, go back to the architecture slide. That was it. ARM, Power, Lexi, ARM and Power, and Intel. We're not in the MIPS world, and I don't think we're getting into the MIPS world anytime soon. So there will always be some embedded Linux on super low-end architectures. We're starting at ARM, and man, ARM is hot right now for embedded Linux. You cut me off when I'm answering too many questions. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Yeah, because we still got to load LexD and all the other stuff we were.
Got it.
All right.
Last question on Snappy. Yeah.
How far back are you going to be able to go with, if I only check in once a year for my transactional updates, right, how far back are you going to go with that? Similar to updating a RHEL 3 box, right, are you guys going to allow me to rolling update if I only check in once a year? Maybe there's been 5 updates since I checked in.
Good question. So it's early days, and we don't quite have the experience with that yet. You're downloading an entire image and putting that onto a partition. So it's not inconceivable to me that you could pull down something that's a whole lot newer. You haven't changed in a long time. You put that down, and as long as your apps are compatible on top of that, it should just work. That's part of the idea in the image-based process. If it doesn't, remember you can roll back. You can go back easily, which you can't do right now with the deb-based update. There's no way of going back. So if it doesn't work, then go back and then turn off updates and figure out what your migration plan is. For the most part, what we're talking about when we're talking about Snappy in the cloud, we're talking about these microservice things. You start up lots of them. If one doesn't work, you shoot it in the head and you start over. You start up a bunch of them. Most of these guys on this slide are running thousands, tens of thousands of instances, and they just want the smallest, fastest, leanest Linux available.
Okay, so with Snappy, we only got 25 minutes left. Now you have to talk faster. LexD, what is this? I'm confused.
Has anyone heard of LexD? Has anyone heard of LXC? All right, Linux containers. Really hot right now. I'm proud to say we've been involved in Linux containers since very, very early on, since about 2010. So we're going on 5 years of container experience. LXC was containers before Docker was Docker. In fact, Docker was LXC before Docker was libcontainer. What we've done with LXD was really a response to what we were hearing from our customers and our partners. We work with Docker. Docker is an important partner of ours. I was in San Francisco yesterday meeting with Docker. Docker is a fantastic technology. We have the latest and greatest Docker in Ubuntu. We keep the Ubuntu images in Docker up to date, and we're very proud of what we do around Docker. And Docker is fantastic for application-based containers. Containers that run a single binary or run a single application. That's the Docker ethos. If you're building things with Docker, you put MongoD or you put MySQL, or you put your Apache inside of a Docker, and if you need something else running another application, you put it in a different Docker and you link them up together. LXD is not that. LXD is containers, but for full operating systems. The goal of LXD, rather than to run a single binary as PID1, the goal of LXD is to boot an operating system. So it runs SBIN init. It runs systemd or upstart. It's basically everything that is a virtual machine except for the kernel, right? in a container you share one kernel space, but you've got distinct user spaces, process spaces, namespaces. LXD is a daemon that manages multiple containers on a given system. So like I said, we've long had LXC. What we've never had is one daemon to manage all of the containers on a given system. So LXD is a daemon. It responds over HTTP. It's has a REST API where a remote system can tell LXD create a container, destroy a container, migrate a container, snapshot a container, move this container from one node to another node. LXD is the endpoint that accepts authenticates, accepts those connections, and then acts on those on the containers inside of the system.
Okay. Any questions about LXD?
One more question.
Oh, all right.
So how is that different than Swarm with Docker?
Again, Docker is all about applications, running an app, a single app inside of a container. It's actually quite a bit of work to run a full init system inside of a container. Swarm is about managing pools of Docker containers for a given application. LXD, we're plugging into most immediately into OpenStack. So as I said, we're responding to requests from customers. We have a lot of customers that are in the service provider markets, the telcos and hosting provider markets. What they were looking for is a way of running some guests more dense on the hardware, more guests on given hardware. And there comes a limit where virtual machines will consume all of the resources on a system, and you can pack a few more containers on those systems. Workload dependent. There's certainly workloads that do better in containers than in VMs. But we're building LXD. Right now, we're plugging it directly into OpenStack. That's our immediate goal.
All right. Go ahead.
One more?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mesos, we've got good conversations with the Mesosphere guys and Mesos. Think of it as another container system that can be used here. We're working with the Google guys with Kubernetes, Mesos, absolutely. We're positioning this this is actually LXC 1.0. So most of those are using LXC to start with. LXC, if you could write these commands that are this long, you can start and stop and restart and snapshot LXC containers. But there was no good API. There was sudo LXC and then like 17 words you had to type after that to do something. LXD instead is a daemon that listens for messages on a clearly defined open API over REST, local or remote, and you do the exact same things, and it manages the LXC containers, the Linux containers on the system. It's really just an extension beyond LXC.
All right, so moving on. Okay, I want to talk about Ubuntu OpenStack for a little bit. Leading OpenStack platform, again. These are some of the people that are deploying Ubuntu OpenStack. 9 out of 10 OpenStack clouds are built on the Ubuntu OS. You guys saw the little stats. Some good names here. Definitely a lot of expertise on deploying Ubuntu on OpenStack. I'm not going to read you the bullets, but it's really awesome. And like I said, over 60% of the production deployments, as surveyed by the Linux Foundation, are doing Ubuntu OpenStack. Ubuntu OpenStack is awesome. If you stop by the booth tomorrow and you want to see a live deployment, find one of us and we can probably do it for you in SSH if you don't believe me that it's doing fast. So some of the things we do, here's an actual breakdown of the survey of who's deploying OpenStack how. And there's Ubuntu in both production, dev, and proof of concept. This schedule kind of looks familiar since we are involved with OpenStack since the very beginning. This kind of cadence release model that OpenStack uses happens to align, not by accident, exactly when we release the operating system, which is really great. One thing we also do is we backport the newer versions of the interim releases. We backport those to the LTS. So if you want to, you can stay on your stable Ubuntu LTS for as long as you want, and then just always keep getting the latest OpenStack, which is really cool. That's called the Ubuntu Cloud Archive, and it's really neat. These are the code names there for OpenStack. So we are currently on L, right? Yep. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, we have this great thing called the OpenStack Interoperability Lab. So what we do is As I mentioned earlier, OpenStack isn't like one thing. It's a collection of services that everyone calls one thing, but whatever, that's just what people do. And different parts, you can choose different hypervisors, different networking things, and you can assemble OpenStack in a myriad of different configurations depending on the hardware. And it becomes really troublesome because, installing it in the first place wasn't necessarily easy. So what we did is we have a lab where we have partners, which are here, I think. Yeah, where we get all the hardware and then we partner with them. And then we set up a lab when we basically go through every single iteration of possible ways that you can connect that equipment to other things. So, I want to make sure that this Cisco works in this configuration. Okay, tear it down, set it up. This time I want to test it in HA. So what we do is for storage, down to like the server level, right? Will the Dell, as a compute node, will a Dell compute node work with a Cisco N1KV, right? Every single combination, what we do. This is all automated, so we just have machines sitting there figuring stuff out. So we work down to the hardware level when it comes to working with our OpenStack, so that when you want to use Ubuntu OpenStack, you get something that is very, very well tested and no surprises. That's what we're shooting for when it comes to deploying your OpenStack. The cloud installer, and I'll get to some of this that we have in landscape now, actually is pretty cool. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure OpenStack, right? So each one of those bits you can say, oh, I want to use KVM here or Zen or Open vSwitch or, the other one. Or maybe I want to use Ceph instead of Swift. But for block storage, I want Ceph. And then you go down every single combination or whatever we're testing. So the installer, you basically go and say, okay, I have this gear, I have this stuff, I want these things. Hit install, and then it installs in one bar, and it's really scary, and you're doing it on multiple hosts. It's pretty cool. However, still running OpenStack is complicated, man. I mean, like I got guys, they're really, really smart Linux guys, and how's your OpenStack thing going? And it's like, man, dude, it's month 3, and you're like, month 3, dude. Yeah, I think we got an instance launch like last night at 2 in the morning. It's like, man, that sucks. So, so there is a demand for people who want to set up OpenStack, right? So with this, I'd like to introduce Jill, who actually works on this, which is called BootStack. So, what is this? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so BootStack is, like you said, you want to have OpenStack, you want to own it, have it in your own data center, and be able to use it, be able to spin up Nova instances or use Swift for storage. You don't want to have to deal with actually running it. What if something falls over? How do I actually configure this? So with your own hardware in your own data center, we will install OpenStack and operate it. Run everything, take care of all of the services. So you get to be my system administrator. Basically.
Okay, cool.
You get a fantastic sysadmin, a team of us actually,
okay.
And if you do reach a point where you have trained someone on OpenStack or you've managed to scrounge up a cloud DevOps unicorn person and hired them, we will hand the cloud over to you. You don't have to migrate out like some of these proprietary OpenStacks do. It's still sitting in your data center. The way it has been, we just hand you the keys and you can go off and run it. At your own pace?
And what's that cost? What's that cost?
It is $15 a day per server, and it is a HA configuration because the Landscape Auto Deployer when is HA coming out with that?
I get to that in a few slides.
Okay, so we will deploy in an HA configuration. So your Neutron gateway, at least 3 instances. Your Nova Cloud Controller, at least 3 instances.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Any questions about BootStack? All right.
We're awesome.
Moving on. This slide is basically advanced common sense. Everyone, obviously. OpenStack is a thing, you might have heard of it. But the kind of purpose of this slide to say that we are deep in the middle of working with a lot of these companies and continuing our leadership of shipping really great OpenStack for people and customers. Juju. So this talk will be tomorrow, actually, right after lunch. It's a service orchestration tool. So while we're talking about like, oh, now we have things like Snappy and 10,000 Docker containers or 10,000, tens of thousands, right? Even thousands isn't impressive enough anymore. People start to realize that, managing services becomes a burden, right? When you use traditional configuration management, right, it's very machine-based, right? But once those numbers start to get up there, And you're looking at things like design with an SOA architecture. You want to model things at a service level as opposed to a specific machine level. So Juju's an automation tool. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it here. You can use it with some of your favorite tools. In fact, Jill and I were just talking about how Juju with Ansible together make a really, really great combination. In fact, just about all of the things that Canonical's IS team deploys in real production, we publish into the Juju Charm Store, so you can consume those right away, including the Ansible, not cookbooks, but playbooks. Thank you very much. So that's really cool. It allows us to open source large swaths of our infrastructure. So when you deploy Elasticsearch, you're using all that goodness. How many of you used Ansible before? Okay. Well, if you haven't, it's really great, and you should. There is a SALT provider as well. That's awesome. So Juju kind of consumes whatever configuration management thing you have, and you can deploy clusters of services. This is a whole dedicated talk for tomorrow, so if you're interested in this kind of thing, I will show you this. We'll do it live. We'll do it on Amazon. We'll probably do it on Azure. We might do it on local, or by we, I mean Marco. So it'll be a lot of fun. We do stuff live. I don't like to do canned demos because that ain't real. Maz, anyone using Maz or tried Maz before? Well, not you. Yeah. So Maz is metal as a service. One of the great things about the cloud, right, is now you have an API for everything, and then I can ask for machines, and machines show up, and it's really great. And then everyone started moving to the cloud, but what are you going to do? Throw away well, actually, a lot of people did that, but whatever. Maz basically is an API to your servers, fundamentally. You say, Maz, I need a server, and a machine will boot up, install the OS all automatically, and then present itself to you. It's really great, but we are running out of time, so give me 30 seconds on Maz. Go. Okay, that's good. So Maz is really great. It handles all the ugly things for you. IPMI, booting servers. I need a server, but I need one with at least 32 cores and 8 gigs of RAM. Maz figures it out. It has a nice UI, has a really great API, very well documented. Version 1.7 is sweet hotness. And that's what our other tools drive Maz, right? So Juju will ask Maz, hey, I'm in bare metal. I need a server for Hadoop. Deal with it. And Maz does all the complicated things. Really great stuff. This next part's awesome. So Robbie went over to Japan. He goes, man, I just talked to the coolest Ubuntu people, and we didn't know about them. So this is a shipping container, right? This company is in Japan. It's called IIJ. And what they were doing is shipping entire data centers in a shipping container. Now, those of you that are my age remember Sun did this, right? The big purple box that was $10 billion or whatever it cost. All commodity hardware, OCP hardware, Open Compute, which is really cool. I don't know how many of you know Amber Grainer. She's here from OCP. So it's open hardware. And they were provisioning this whole entire thing with Ubuntu, Maz, Juju, and OpenStack. So this is OpenStack in a box, which is really cool. They're portable. They can put them in places, disaster relief kind of things, whatever. There's lots of cool things you could do with this. So this is really cool. We asked them, hey, exactly, what are you using? And I heard really scary things like, oh, actually, we're using Maz 1.7, which is alpha at the time, and I got really scared. And then I asked them, I go, how long does it take, after the hardware's in place, how long does it take for you guys to, get it up and running with the software and stuff like that? And they told me, and it's a Japanese company, so I was speaking through a translator, and they told me a week, and my heart sunk. I was like, a week? That is horrible. Man, I was going to write a blog post and show people pictures about this. This is terrible. I mean, why? Why is it taking them so long? That's crazy. I go, you know what? That's actually really embarrassing. Maybe our products aren't that awesome. And then I said, well, actually, how long did it take you before you used Ubuntu, OpenStack, and Maz and Juju? 2 to 3 months. I said, whoa. So I thought I heard the translation wrong. I was like, ask him again. We're talking months, right? So to get one of these ready used to take them 2 to 3 months. Now they do it in a week, right? So that's really, in that scale, it's pretty awesome. So this is cool. And the great thing is all those tools that companies like this are using and Netflix and stuff are using is all available to you to use at work as well. So landscape, because we are running out of time, one thing I want you to remember about landscape is we now actually support, we have a demo mode landscape. If you go Oh, man. That could have been way more embarrassing. All right, so Google is how do I use Landscape for home personal use? So Landscape is traditionally like a product. When you buy Ubuntu Advantage, which is a support package, you get Landscape and things like that. But we gave you a free trial, and then it expired, and then so people be like, man, I really wish I could like just run it at home so I can figure it out, so I can find out and tell my boss if it's something good for work. So we actually give you 20 licenses for Landscape that you can use for free for whatever you want. 10 for physical servers, and then you get another 10 licenses for either containers or VMs or things like that. So you install this PVA, and then you follow the instructions, and then you register your client machines, and you can do really great things. It has monitoring, so you can do performance monitoring. You can push packages out. So like at home, like I'm hardcore, but I ain't setting up Ansible or Puppet at home, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like a lightweight, it's really nice. Now, so it's really great for personal use. So as a SCaLE enthusiast, I think you should check this out.
Let me throw something in there, George.
Sure.
Has anyone set their like family and friends, maybe their mom or their dad, their sisters up with Ubuntu? You're just like, let me fix your computer, let me install Ubuntu on it, right? Have you done that before? Okay. And if you don't live close to them, at some point they call you and they have a question, right? And they need some help, or they need Skype installed, or Firefox Flash plugin is broken, or something like that. So that's me. Everyone that I'm closely related to is now running Ubuntu, and I use Landscape anywhere in the world to remotely upgrade their system, fix a package that's broken. If I need to, I can get an SSH shell into the system. We charge big money for that for servers, but just recently, as in the last 6 months, we've turned on 20 free. You can manage 20 machines for free. Anyone here can manage 20 machines for free. It's amazing. I tell you, it's amazing.
So it's interesting. We were actually in Amsterdam for work, and you know, he came in the morning. He was like, oh yeah, you know, that was the day. What was it? Heartbleed or something came out or something. And you're like, yeah, hold up. I just got to make sure my mom's Ubuntu machine is up to date in Heartbleed. And I was like, you know what? I'm going home and setting that up, because I was like, uh-oh. I had to call my wife and be like, shut my computers off. So yeah.
It manages Ubuntu machines only.
Yeah.
It only manages Ubuntu machines.
So for personal use, as a hobbyist, go back and play with it. From more professional stuff, when you install it with the Landscape installer and you get the choose your adventure thing I was talking about, those nodes can automatically register in Landscape, and you get performance monitoring on all of them, and you can do audits and all sorts of things. I actually should have had a live one, but you can sit there, you can add accounts, you can use typical system administrative stuff. So that's really great. I highly encourage you to do that. So yeah, try it at home for free. It's pretty cool. So the future, I'm going to tell you about the next things that we're doing, and then open it up for questions here. So currently we have bundles, and unless Jill's hooking you up and doing it for you, we don't really have highly available OpenStack out of the box as easy as just a normal OpenStack. So over the next few months, we're adding HA to OpenStack Charm bundles now that we have leader election and things like that. Kubernetes is pretty awesome. I don't know how many of you are going to attend the Kubernetes talk on Sunday, but we're basically working that. We're charming that for Juju like we've done for Cloud Foundry already, so that you know, for the next servers from now on, every Ubuntu server will be able to deploy Kubernetes almost out of the box. We're real excited to work on Google on this. I'm hoping to get it working on this orange box this week. We'll see what happens. But a real engineer will actually ship that, not me. Google Compute Engine, we have images on there, but you can't really deploy workloads and stuff on it with Juju yet, so we'll have that. We'll have more Hortonworks bundles as well, so you'll be able to not just deploy Kubernetes and Cloud Foundry, but all sorts of just big data stuff. You want Apache Spark, you want Horton Hadoop. We already have Apache Hadoop. And all just sorts of all the things, the big data, complicated things that people don't like to sit around configuring by hand, so we're going to have that. And more pure upstream charms themselves. So MariaDB is now in the Ubuntu Charm Store, so you can get both the enterprise and community editions of MariaDB decoupled from the OS, so when they upgrade it, I kind of step out of the way and let you and MariaDB handle that. You no longer have to sit there and, oh man, who's running this PPA, blah, 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 and you're getting shady binaries. You get pure upstream stuff from companies like MariaDB We do the same thing for Elasticsearch. And basically any service that we use in production at Canonical, we share those, so you get that goodness as well. And with that, we have about 5 minutes left for questions. We've covered a lot of stuff. Sorry, everyone confused? Like, I work on this stuff, and I still can't keep it straight. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Will that presentation be available for download later?
Yes, I believe SCaLE gives us a place to upload stuff. If not, come find me tomorrow, and I'll make sure at least give you a copy.
SCaLE will be able to post all of the slides online.
Oh, so I will be good. Yeah.
I believe all of this media is ultimately available. Sometimes it takes
okay.
a while, but it should be there.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any feedback? What do you guys hate about Ubuntu server? Nothing?
I love Ubuntu server. Been using it for a long time, so
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for
Continue to
using
use it. But I am very AWS centric,
Uh-huh.
and is Juju and Landscape kind of meant for that, or is it really just an OpenStack tool, or how does it?
Yeah. So that is a very good question. So for us as the operating system vendor, our job is to kind to be the common layer between all clouds. So all the deployment stuff I was talking about doing on OpenStack, absolutely you can do it on AWS or Azure or Join or HP.
I'll say it's stronger than that.
Yeah.
Juju supported AWS before anything else. That was the first cloud it supported. OpenStack second, other things. Landscape is used to manage hundreds of thousands of instances in AWS. About the only thing that's not going to run in AWS is Maz, because Maz provisions hardware.
Yeah.
Maz can provision VMs, but it's not the most efficient way to provision VMs. We're very much a cloud-focused company, cloud public cloud, cloud private cloud, and with Maz bare metal as well.
When we did a SCaLE test, actually, we did a 20,000 node Hadoop cluster on AWS, and we deployed that with Juju.
By the way, if you want to run 20,000 nodes, I do recommend you give Amazon a call ahead of time. Speaking
No, we
from
did that because
experience.
they were like you can go. It just has to be in this region at 2 a.m. your local time, and we actually had to wait and stuff.
Yeah,
but
you're going to want to give them a heads up.
yeah. But yeah, absolutely. All the workloads tomorrow, a bunch of them will be on Amazon. It's really fast. Takes me about 10 minutes to get a workload. That's including a bootstrap. So yeah, depends on the day. US East 1 for the win. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're packaging etcd snaps right now. We have Docker already packaged as a framework. The etcd packages are coming along. We hit a little bug with etcd 203, wasn't compiling with GCC Go. We're getting close though. Look, we're pretty agnostic on that. I mean, we want Ubuntu to be that I'm going to say that just across the board. We want Ubuntu to be everywhere, and we work with a lot of different Hadoop vendors, a lot of different cloud vendors, a lot of different orchestration vendors. We're working with Kubernetes. We'll work with Fleet. We'll work with Mesos. We'll work with whomever. No.
It's not our place to tell you how to design your infrastructure.
No.
We just want to give you what you want.
We want to make the best of open source available to you.
Yeah.
Period.
That's like our vibe. Sorry, you asked. I'm sorry. So
Do we have a few minutes? We can stick around.
We'll make minutes.
yeah, if you want to stick around after and check this out, we'll open it up. You want to open it up?
I don't have
You're
a
not gonna-
screwdriver.
Oh, okay.
I have a screwdriver.
So
Fine, we'll open it up. Yeah, it's fine.
I don't know. We are doing live demos with it tomorrow, but we'll see who hangs out. We'll see. Okay,
Yeah.
So if you want to stick around, check out the hardware, ask us other questions. If you're not coming tonight to the Bad Voltage show, I highly recommend it. I will be emceeing it, so it should be a lot of fun.
Can I have network?
And with that, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Yeah. And thank you very much to that you're running Ubuntu server. I cannot tell you how awesome it is to work on something and have a guy from a Netflix or a Lyft or something say, I really love your guys' stuff. I'm only running 135 billion VMs. And you're like, what number is that? It's crazy. So when you guys build something awesome with Ubuntu server, it just really makes us happy. So thank you very much for those of you that are missing. Oh, and there is Amber, if you could stand up. The pictures of that container. Amber. Yeah, the picture of that container using the open hardware OCP stuff, this is the person to talk to.
Oh,
it is
good
good stuff. So with that, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And thanks all of you for showing at this year's UbuCon. We have 2 more days of SCaLE. But before you leave, I should tell you, we have a couple more extra large T-shirts for Trustee. We have a need over here. All right.
I don't know why.
Thanks again, guys. Enjoy the rest of SCaLE. We'll see you next year.